When I was drowning in debt, my parents told me to be a man and handle it alone while funding my sister's luxury lifestyle. 2 years later, they demanded I pay for her wedding and honeymoon. Big mistake. Hey Reddit. So I was always the backup kid. My sister was the star. I helped with everything rides, projects, even her rent once. When my life crashed, my parents told me I was on my own. Now they want me to bankroll her wedding like none of that happened. Let me show you how it went. My name's Logan Kane, late 20s now, but back then I was the kid who could fix anything. I used to be the reliable one. That was my whole identity growing up. Wi-Fi down? Call Logan. Dad's woodworking tools need organizing? Logan's on it. Sierra, my younger sister, forgot to finish a college project? Logan will stay up late helping. The funny part? Nobody ever asked Sierra to return the favor. She was the princess of the family. Got her first car at 16. Parents bragged about her like she was winning Nobel Prizes just for existing. Me? I was the one holding everything together in the background. When I got into a decent college on partial scholarship, they said, "That's great," and went right back to talking about Sierra's volleyball team. I didn't really complain, though. It's not like I expected medals for doing the right thing, but I did assume, naively apparently, that one day, if I needed help, they'd be there the way I was for them. Anyway, after college, I started this small logistics plus e-commerce services company. I poured everything into it. Time, money, sleep. Things actually looked good for about a year. Then it all went downhill fast. One of my main suppliers bailed on a contract, blamed shipping issues that I later found out were because they got a bigger client. A small lawsuit from a cranky customer drained my savings because I couldn't afford decent legal help. Suddenly, I had late payments piling up, interest rates eating me alive, and my phone buzzing with numbers I didn't recognize. Spoiler. None of them were friends calling to hang out. I pawned my old camera, switched to eating instant noodles twice a day, stopped using heat in the apartment because the bill scared me. There was this one night I sat in the dark because I didn't want to waste electricity on lights. That was the moment I thought, man, this is bad. But here's the thing. I wasn't scared to work. I just thought if I could get a little breathing room, I could turn it around. So I swallowed my pride and drove to my parents' place one Sunday. Mom, Margot, was in her usual Sunday best, even though she wasn't going anywhere. Dad, Victor, had golf on TV with the volume too loud. Sierra was at the table scrolling on her phone, perfectly manicured nails tapping away while I sat there trying to explain how bad things were. I told them straight. Business collapsed. I was behind on rent. I needed a loan. Not a gift, a loan. I even said I'd pay interest if that made them feel better. My mom didn't even think about it. "Logan, we can't," she said, like I was asking for her kidney. "You know how much Sierra's grad school is costing us right now." My dad nodded like that ended the conversation. Sierra didn't look up from her phone. It was quiet for a second, and then my mom added, "You're smart. You'll figure it out." That was it, like I was asking for gas money instead of a life preserver. I drove home that night with this weird mix of anger and embarrassment. I wasn't mad just about the money. I was mad because after years of being their go-to guy, the fixer, the reliable son, the first time I needed something real, they made it crystal clear I was on my own. It got worse that week. My laptop battery puffed up like a balloon, so I had to keep it plugged in all the time. My phone screen cracked when it slipped off the counter. The one client keeping me afloat paused work because they were cutting costs. It felt like everything I owned was breaking just to mock me. I borrowed cash from two friends just to keep the lights on and buy groceries. One of them handed me a bag with bread, pasta, peanut butter, said, "Pay me back whenever." That stung more than I expected, and as if the universe wanted to pile it on, my girlfriend left. We'd been together 3 years. She said it wasn't about the money, that things just felt different now. But when you're skipping dinners out because you're counting quarters for gas, you don't need a degree in psychology to see where it's headed. The thing that burned was how quietly it ended. No big fight, no crying, just this silent agreement that my life was too messy, and she didn't sign up for the fallout. That was the month I decided two things. I was done expecting help from anyone. I was getting out of this hole no matter how long it took. Things didn't flip overnight, but I started catching small breaks here and there. The kind you don't even notice at first because you're too used to losing. It started with Carl, the landscaping guy, who needed a website facelift. Someone said I was good with computers. I wasn't really, but I said yes, and spent 3 days learning a new template system to make it look professional. He paid on time, in cash. That single payment cleared an overdue utility bill and bought real groceries for the first time in months. Around then, I cut off contact with my family. No calls, no texts, no birthdays. Our last conversation left a bad taste, and if they could ignore me while I was drowning, they didn't need front row seats while I rebuilt. 2 weeks into this silent treatment, my mom sent a group text about selling my old Honda. We sold the car, honey. Sierra needed tuition money. It's fine. She'll pay us back when she's done with her degree. Technically, the title was still in Dad's name. Teenage paperwork we never changed. So they didn't even need my signature to sell it. That was it. No asking if I was okay with it. No apology. Just letting me know my property was gone. I didn't respond. I think she expected me to call and yell, but I didn't see the point. That car was one of the last things I owned outright, and they sold it off like it was a lamp gathering dust. What really got me was how casual they were about it, like my stuff existed for Sierra's convenience. Anyway, I kept working. Small gigs, freelance contracts, anything people would pay me to do as long as it was legal. It got to the point where my sleep schedule didn't even look human anymore. I'd be fixing a database at 2 in the morning and then delivering flyers for a local store by 8. Somewhere in the middle of all this, my landlord announced he was selling the building. He gave everyone 3 months to move out because the new owner wanted to renovate. I packed everything I owned into a beat-up U-Haul and found a studio apartment across town. It was smaller, cheaper, and had this weird smell in the hallway, but the roof didn't leak and the rent was $200 less. I started writing everything down on sticky notes stuck to the fridge. Pay power bill by Thursday. Send invoice to Mark for router setup. Apply to 2 new freelance platforms. Buy used charger off Facebook Marketplace. It sounds small, but it gave me direction when everything felt like chaos. One of the smartest things I did was print out a big calendar and tape it to the wall. Every time I paid off even $50 of debt, I marked the day in green. It was slow progress, but at least I could see it happening. Work started picking up unexpectedly. Carl, the landscaping guy, mentioned me to his cousin, and soon I was fixing the cousin's online store. That led to a bakery job setting up cupcake orders. I didn't charge much, but it was steady, and people paid fast when you solved real problems. With the extra cash, I cleared 1 credit card and cut it up. Felt better than I expected. Meanwhile, Sierra posted about her hard semester and family support, getting 100 likes while I worked 12-hour days and lived on dollar menus. I said nothing. Instead, I invested in small upgrades. A second-hand laptop, a $50 bike to save on bus fares, and thrift store clothes, so I looked professional meeting clients. By the end of the year, I had 3 steady clients. No eviction threats. The debt calendar on my wall was a forest of green squares and enough savings to cover at least 2 months of expenses if things went bad again. For the first time in forever, I wasn't terrified of opening my email. I didn't hear much from my family during all this. A few holiday texts, a half-hearted, "we should catch up soon," from my mom that never turned into actual plans. I figured they were busy paying for Sierra's next big thing. Grad school, yoga retreats, whatever she was into that month. I didn't ask. Then one Saturday, I came back from a client meeting and found all 3 of them, Mom, Dad, and Sierra, standing outside my apartment door like they were staging an intervention. All smiles, like nothing had ever happened. I'd forgotten my phone was still sharing location on the old family plan. They just followed the dot. I turned it off that night. My first thought was they had the wrong apartment. My building wasn't the kind of place Margot and Victor visited. No golf magazines on the coffee table. No scented candles. Just thin walls, creaky stairs, and neighbors who smoked on the front steps. But no, they were here for me. "Logan," my mom said like we'd spoken yesterday. "You've been so busy. We never see you anymore." I opened the door mostly to avoid giving the neighbors a front row seat to my family reunion. They walked in like they owned the place. My dad glanced at the bare walls and folding chair, but said nothing. Sierra scrolled her phone, polished as if heading to brunch. They asked the usual: work, life, eating enough, never the car they sold, or the months I spent crawling out of debt. Like that part of my life never existed. After 10 minutes of small talk, I realized there was a reason they were here, but they weren't saying it yet, so I cut it short. "What's going on?" I asked. They exchanged looks. Mom smiled. "We'll talk soon. Just keep us in the loop, okay? We're family." That was it. Then they left, Sierra tossing a bye over her shoulder, without looking up from her screen. Work kept coming. The bakery led to a used bookstore with a broken website. I spent 2 weekends fixing it, got paid, and replaced my wobbly kitchen table with one that didn't threaten to collapse under a coffee mug. A print shop needed scheduling help. A gym wanted better signups. Word spread. No one cared about my resume, just that I solved problems without charging corporate rates. By spring, bills were covered, rent was on time, and my $300 emergency fund felt like control for the first time in years. I even started running again. Old sneakers, a few miles a week, enough to clear my head after long days at a screen. I didn't tell my family any of this. Didn't need to. My feed wasn't private, and they lurked like everyone else. Around this time, I got my first bigger client, a furniture store chain expanding online. They needed inventory syncing between locations and a basic delivery tracker for customers. The owner was skeptical at first, said he'd been burned by freelancers who overpromised. I kept it simple. I can do it. If you don't like the result, you don't pay. 3 weeks later, his system worked, customers stopped complaining, and he paid in full plus a bonus because online sales jumped. That bonus paid off the last high-interest credit card I had. I paid both friends back that night, plus a little extra and a thank you text. I printed the confirmation, pinned it to my wall, and stared at it for a while before throwing it out. One less chain around my neck. I kept hearing bits about Sierra through social media. She graduated grad school. Big photo shoot, flowers, fancy dinner with my parents there smiling like she cured cancer. No mention of me not being invited. Not surprising. Then she got some new car. Probably my parents co-signed because Sierra never paid for anything bigger than coffee. None of it bothered me as much as it used to. I was too busy building something real while they lived in their bubble. By summer, I finally upgraded my phone after 2 years with a cracked screen. Got a second-hand one that didn't freeze every 5 minutes. That tiny change felt like a luxury. I also moved to a better apartment across town. 1 bedroom instead of a studio, actual working heat, neighbors who said hello but didn't ask questions. The day I moved in, my mom texted, "We should have a family dinner soon. It's been too long." I left her on red. A few weeks later, I landed another contract, this one for a mid-sized logistics company. Bigger than my usual clients, longer timeline, real money. Enough that I bought proper software instead of free trials and duct tape solutions. For the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was actually planning ahead. I built a small website for my services, got a business email instead of my old Gmail, and stopped taking the lowest paying gigs. It felt strange saying no to work after grabbing every scrap for so long, but it made sense. I finally sprung for a tiny co-working desk, month to month, 1 drawer, and a fake plant by the window. It came with a mailbox and a bookable conference room. Nothing fancy, but it meant I could meet clients somewhere that wasn't my kitchen table. I started calling it the office. I wasn't scrambling anymore. Then, one Friday evening, I got home from a client meeting and saw my mom's car outside my building again. This time, my dad and Sierra were with her, all dressed nice like they came straight from some event. They didn't need the dot. My LLC filing listed my apartment as the business address, public record with a 2-minute search. When I opened the door, my mom beamed. "Logan, we have exciting news." I let them in, already feeling like I knew where this was going. Sierra smiled like a politician. "Blake and I are getting married." Mom was already scrolling a spreadsheet, destination venues with 5-figure deposits and per-guest minimums that made her wince. There it was. I didn't know it then, but they'd split for a few weeks earlier that year. After Sierra told him she was pregnant, they got back together and he proposed. My dad clapped my shoulder. "Big wedding, lots of guests. It's going to be beautiful." I leaned against the counter. "Congrats. So why are you telling me like it's a business meeting?" They didn't answer right away. Then my mom said it. "We were hoping you could help. You know, contribute." I stared at her for a second. "Contribute to what exactly?" "The wedding," she said, smiling like it was obvious. "Big guest list, destination venue, flowers, catering. It adds up, Logan. We thought you could pitch in. Just a little." I glanced at Sierra. She was standing there like this was already a done deal, scrolling on her phone with her left hand, while the right one flashed a brand new engagement ring. I asked, "How much is a little?" My dad cleared his throat. 50,000 should cover the rest. Venue deposit, photographer, honeymoon. It's not just for Sierra, it's for the family. A celebration. I actually laughed. Not the fake kind either. A real short laugh before I could stop it. 50,000? You think I have that lying around? My mom jumped in. "You've been doing so well lately. We see your posts about the business growing. It's the least you could do after everything this family has done for you." That line landed harder than it should have. After everything this family has done for you. Right? The same family that sold my car behind my back and left me eating canned soup when I asked for help. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no either. I just crossed my arms and waited to hear the rest. That's when Sierra finally spoke, lowering her phone like she'd been practicing this part. Look, this wedding isn't just about me, she said, voice trembling like she was about to deliver a monologue. Blake and we're starting a family. I raised an eyebrow. Starting a family? I'm pregnant, she said, almost whispering it. My mom touched her arm like this was supposed to be some emotional movie scene. She's been so stressed, Logan. The wedding, the baby, it's a lot for her. That's why we need your help. I leaned against the counter, arms still crossed. So let me get this straight. 2 years ago, I was in debt, and you told me I was on my own. Now, you want 50 grand because Sierra planned a wedding she can't afford? And you decided I'm the bank? My dad frowned. This isn't the time to bring up old things. Family supports each other. Right, I said. Except when it doesn't. Sierra's eyes watered, like I was the villain here. Blake and I just want a good start. Is that so wrong? I didn't answer right away. Honestly, I was too busy wondering if Blake even knew about this plan, because he didn't strike me as the huge destination wedding type. Instead, I said, I'll think about it, just to end the conversation. My mom smiled like that was a yes. My dad said, good man, like I'd just signed a contract. They left 20 minutes later, still talking about flower arrangements and photographers, as if the money was already coming. The next day, I texted Sierra. Does Blake know you asked me for 50 grand? She replied 3 hours later. Of course. We're a team. Something about that didn't sit right. Blake was polite but quiet the few times I'd met him, not the kind of guy who demanded huge weddings or threw money around. I sent him a message. Need to talk. Just us. He agreed to meet for coffee the following afternoon. Before meeting Blake, I checked social media. Sierra had posted a countdown for the big day, along with pictures of a tropical resort, comments full of OMG so excited for you guys, and heart emojis. Not one post mentioned Blake's opinion on any of it. Blake showed up at the coffee shop in jeans and a hoodie, looking like he hadn't slept much. Thanks for meeting, I said, sitting across from him. No problem, he said, but his voice didn't sound like a guy about to have a dream wedding. I got straight to it. Did you know Sierra and my parents asked me for $50,000? His eyes widened. 50? For what? That's what I'm asking you. He rubbed his forehead. I thought her parents were paying for most of it. Sierra keeps saying everything's handled. I didn't know they were hitting you up too. You okay with this big wedding? I asked. He hesitated. No, I told her I'd be fine with something small. Courthouse, few friends, nothing crazy. We were actually broken up when she told me she was pregnant. We got back together and I proposed a couple weeks later, but I never agreed to a 200-person destination wedding. But she said her mom already started planning, and then the pregnancy thing happened and now, he trailed off. And now it's a circus, I finished for him. He nodded slowly. Look, I said, if you don't want this, you need to say so before it gets worse. Because I'm not paying a dime for a wedding you're not even sure about. Blake stared into his coffee like it had answers. Yeah, he said finally. You're right. I need to talk to her. As I left the cafe, I realized two things. My parents and Sierra assumed I'd cave like always. Blake clearly wasn't on board with half the stuff being planned in his name. For once, it felt like I wasn't the one trapped. Blake texted me that night saying he wanted to talk to Sierra before things went any further. He sounded nervous even over text, like a guy about to poke a sleeping bear. I told him good luck and left it at that. 2 days later, my mom called. Not texted, called. Logan, she said, we're having a family dinner Sunday. Everyone's going to be there. You too, okay? I asked what it was about. She said, you'll see when you get here. In that voice she uses when she thinks she's orchestrating some grand event. I already knew what it was about. When I walked into their house Sunday evening, the smell of roast chicken hit me first. My mom always made big dinners, like food could solve problems. Sierra was on the couch looking annoyed, my dad had the TV muted but still on, and my mom was rearranging plates like she was hosting royalty. Blake wasn't there yet. I sat down across from Sierra. Where's Blake? She didn't look at me. On his way. My dad handed me a drink and tried small talk about the weather, the usual filler before someone drops a bomb. Finally, my mom put her hands on the table. Logan, we need to settle this wedding thing. I leaned back. What's there to settle? You said you'd think about helping, she said. Well, we need to book the venue this week. Prices are going up. I glanced at Sierra. You talked to Blake yet? She frowned. Why? Because when I saw him, he didn't seem thrilled about any of this. Sierra crossed her arms. Blake's just stressed. He wants this wedding. Funny, I said. That's not what he told me. Her eyes snapped up. What's that supposed to mean? Before I could answer, Blake was at the door. When he walked in, He looked like a guy who hadn't slept much, hair messy, shirt wrinkled. My mom smiled at him like nothing was wrong. Perfect timing. We were just talking about the big day. Blake nodded at everyone, sat down next to Sierra, and didn't say a word. I decided to cut the warm-up act. Blake, I said, you want to tell them or should I? He froze. Sierra looked between us. Tell us what? Blake cleared his throat. I think the wedding's getting out of hand. The costs, the guest list, the destination thing, it's too much. My mom's smile twitched. Blake, weddings are expensive, that's normal. He shook his head. I never wanted a huge wedding. I told Sierra that. I said I'd be fine with something small. But she and you guys started planning all this before I even agreed. Sierra's face turned red. Excuse me? You proposed to me, Blake shot back. Yeah, because you said you were pregnant and needed stability. Then suddenly, there's a 200-person wedding in another country I can't afford. I feel like I don't even have a say. My dad spoke for the first time. You're overreacting. It's one day. Make it nice for your wife. Blake stared at him. One day that costs 50 grand your son's supposed to pay for? How does that make sense? All eyes went to me then, like I was on trial. I shrugged. Yeah, about that. I'm not paying. My mom blinked like she misheard me. Logan, don't be dramatic. Not dramatic, I said. Realistic. You want a wedding you can't afford? Blake doesn't want it? And somehow I'm the villain for saying no? Sierra slammed her hand on the table. You're my brother. Families help each other. I looked right at her. Like when I needed help and you all told me to figure it out myself? Nobody said anything. Blake finally spoke again, quieter this time. I can't do this, Sierra. Not like this. Not a wedding I don't want. Not money from your brother. Not all this pressure. My mom jumped in, voice sharp now. Blake, she's carrying your child. The least you can do is give her a proper wedding. He shook his head. The least I can do is be honest. I'm not ready to marry someone who makes decisions for both of us and expects everyone else to pay for it. Sierra stood up like she'd been slapped. So what? You're leaving? Just like that? I didn't sign up for this circus, Blake said, standing too. I wanted a family, not whatever this is. My dad muttered something about ungrateful kids. My mom started tearing up like she was the victim. Sierra pointed at me. This is your fault. You turned him against me. I stood too, calm as I could manage. No, Sierra. He just finally said out loud what everyone else was thinking. Blake walked out first. Sierra ran upstairs crying. My mom followed her, throwing me the dirtiest look on her way out. My dad stayed behind, shaking his head like I'd ruined some grand plan. You could have handled that better, he said. I grabbed my jacket. So could all of you. Then I left, feeling the weight slide off my shoulders for the first time in years. 2 days went by with no calls from anyone. I thought maybe they were cooling off, finally realizing the wedding circus was collapsing under its own weight. I was wrong. On the third day, Sierra showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked rough, hair a mess, no makeup, wearing a hoodie like she hadn't slept. You happy now? She snapped the second I opened the door. I didn't even invite her in yet. What happened? Blake, she said, arms crossed tight. He broke up with me. Said he needs space. Thanks for ruining my life, Logan. I stared at her. Ruining your life? All I did was tell the truth. She pushed past me into the apartment. You turned him against me. You and your little coffee shop meeting, whispering in his ear. Now he's gone. The wedding's canceled. And everyone thinks I'm some manipulative psycho. I shut the door slowly. Sierra? He didn't want the wedding before I even talked to him. He told me himself. You just didn't want to hear it. She spun around. You don't get it. He was supposed to stay no matter what. That's what people do when they love someone. I raised an eyebrow. So forcing him into a giant wedding he didn't want was love? She went quiet for a second, then muttered, You think you're better than us now. Just because you have your little business and your stupid apartment? There it was. The real problem. For years, I was the screw-up. The guy they didn't have to worry about because Sierra was the star. Now that I wasn't drowning anymore, suddenly I was the enemy. Before I could answer, her phone rang. She put it on speaker without looking at the screen. It was Blake. His voice came through sharp and tired. Sierra, I told you already, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. It's too much drama, too much pressure, and I don't even know if this kid is... He stopped mid-sentence like he realized he was on speaker. Excuse me? Sierra yelled into the phone. What do you mean by this kid? I mean, Blake said carefully, we were fighting half the time. You told me about the pregnancy after we broke up the first time. I don't even know what's real anymore. Sierra's face went pale. You're unbelievable. I'm not doing this, Blake said. I'm not marrying you, Sierra. I'll take care of the baby if it's mine. but I'm done with the rest. Then the line went dead. Sierra stood there frozen, phone still in her hand, like someone pulled the plug on her entire life. You see what you did? She said finally, voice shaking. Me? I pointed at the phone. Pretty sure that was Blake talking. She stormed out without another word, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. That night, my mom called. Logan, she said, skipping hello. Your sister is devastated. She hasn't eaten all day. You need to fix this. I almost laughed. Fix it? Like I broke it? You've been stirring things up, she snapped. Blake thinks the whole family's crazy now. He won't even return our calls. Maybe because you are acting crazy, I said. You planned a wedding he didn't want. Demanded money I don't owe you, and now you want me to glue it all back together? This isn't the time for sarcasm, she said. There's a baby involved. I leaned back in my chair. Yeah, a baby he says might not even be his. Did you hear that part? Silence. Then she said, regardless, Sierra needs support. She can't do this alone. I didn't answer right away because here it was again, the moment where I was supposed to save the day like always. But I was done playing that role. The next day, Blake posted on social media. Nothing dramatic, just a simple status. Not getting married. Moving on. Please respect privacy. The comments were brutal. Half her friends defended Sierra, half roasted her for overspending on a wedding before locking down the groom. Sierra deleted her accounts that night. Weeks went by. No late-night calls, no surprise visits, no guilt trips about family sticking together. It was almost too quiet. Then my mom showed up at my office on a Thursday afternoon. I hadn't seen her since the dinner where Blake walked out. She looked different. Hair tied back messy, makeup smudged, like she hadn't slept much. Logan, she said, we need to talk. I leaned back in my chair. About what? The wedding's over. Blake's gone. Sierra's home with you. Not sure what's left to say. It's the baby, she said quietly. She's not doing well. Barely eats, cries half the day. Doctor says stress is bad for her and the child. We're worried. I stayed silent. She needs help, Logan. Financially, emotionally. We can't keep up. There it was, the ask. But this time, I didn't feel cornered. Help with what exactly? Living expenses? Doctor visits? Just until she gets on her feet, my mom said. We can't do it alone anymore. I thought about it for a moment, then said, fine. But this time, there are conditions. She looked surprised. Conditions? Yeah, I said. She finds a job, takes parenting classes, shows receipts for anything I help with. I'm not handing out blank checks so she can sit around blaming the world. My mom didn't argue. That was new. She just nodded and said, okay, I'll talk to her. A week later, Sierra came to my apartment looking like someone who'd finally been hit by reality. No designer clothes, no perfect hair, just a tired face and an oversized hoodie. I heard you'll help, she said, not meeting my eyes. I will, I said, for the baby. Not for another vacation, not for some fantasy wedding, not so you can sit around. You want help? You work too. She nodded slowly. I got a part-time job at a daycare. Mom helped me apply. That caught me off guard. Seriously? Yeah, she said quietly. Pays crap, but it's something. It wasn't much, but it was the first time in years she wasn't expecting life to be handed to her. When the baby came, a boy named Lucas, everything shifted again. I paid for the car seat, the stroller, a few doctor bills. Nothing crazy, just enough to keep things stable. Sierra surprised me. She kept the daycare job, took the parenting classes seriously, stopped posting fake perfect photos online. The drama queen routine disappeared once she had real responsibilities. My parents stopped asking for money too. Maybe they realized I wasn't bailing anyone out anymore, or maybe Lucas just gave them something else to focus on. Either way, the constant chaos I grew up with finally died down. 3 months after Lucas was born, and after the test confirmed he's the dad, Blake reached out, said he wanted to be part of the kid's life but wasn't getting back with Sierra. He started showing up every week, buying diapers, taking Lucas for walks. For the first time in forever, Sierra didn't fight about it. She just let it happen. One Saturday, my parents invited everyone over for a barbecue. First family gathering since the wedding disaster. I almost didn't go, but curiosity won. When I got there, Sierra was flipping burgers while Lucas napped in a stroller. My dad was cleaning the grill instead of giving lectures. My mom was actually playing with the baby instead of posting pictures for likes. It was normal. At one point, Sierra came over holding Lucas. She looked different, older somehow, like life had finally smacked some sense into her. Thanks for helping, she said quietly. I know I made a mess of things. I'm trying to fix it. I nodded. You're doing better than I expected. She laughed once, tired but real. Yeah, Me too. The biggest change wasn't them, though. It was me. I left that barbecue early, told them I had work the next day, even though I didn't. Driving home, I realized something. For the first time in my life, they didn't need me to fix everything. And that felt better than any thank you ever could. 6 months later, my business passed six figures for the first time. I moved into a better place, hired part-time help, even took a real vacation with my own money. First one in years. My parents still saw Lucas all the time, but they stopped expecting me to show up for every little thing. Sierra handled her own bills now. Blake and her co-parented without drama. It wasn't perfect, probably never would be, but it was stable. And after everything, that was enough. I didn't rub it in, didn't give any speeches about how I was right or how they should have treated me better years ago. I just lived my life, paid my bills, and let them figure theirs out. Because for the first time, the chaos wasn't mine to carry anymore. 2.